Excuse Darlene.
30
seconds.
Say it again.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning. We're resuming our July 15th meeting. Mr. Shire, do you have any other matters or any other issues on this matter?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner Cooper. Thank you, but I have nothing further.
Ms. Richardson, do you have any other matters?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Cooper. No, thank you.
Thank you. On June 24th, 2019, Eldorado Resorts Incorporated and Caesars Entertainment Corporation entered into an agreement and a planned merger, which was amended on August 15, 2019. To implement the merger, Colt Merger Sub Incorporated was created and will merge into Caesars. Caesars will be a surviving corporation as wholly owned subsidiary of Eldorado. Eldorado will become a holding company of Bally's Atlantic City, Caesars Atlantic City, Harrah's Atlantic City, and Caesars Interactive Entertainment New Jersey, in addition to Tropicana Atlantic City. Eldorado will change its name to Caesars Entertainment, which throughout this hearing was frequently and informally referred to as the new Caesars. The petitioners also seek various rulings from the Commission related to the proposed merger. Eldorado has been engaged in acquisitions over the past several years. Since 2014, Eldorado has increased its gaming assets almost fourfold, including its 2018 purchase of Tropicana Entertainment, which included Tropicana Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, with this $17.3 billion agreement to merge two of the nation's largest publicly traded gaming companies, a combined Eldorado and Caesars would control a significant portion of this market. There are legitimate concerns that new Caesars, if left unchecked, would be in a position to harm fair competition in the Atlantic City market. As a backdrop, during this period, we have witnessed a dramatic and unprecedented business disruption across the country. Many industries, including casino gaming, have suffered from the mandated shutdown of public spaces to limit human contact and slow the spread of COVID-19. In New Jersey, the recovery from this episode has begun, but there has been setbacks in other regions of the country. The level of uncertainty regarding when business might return to normal is very high. At this time, there should indeed be natural skepticism regarding near-term financial forecast. On Wednesday, we heard testimony from a team of executives who will be responsible for implementing the merger and will operate new Caesars. They highlighted transactions recently undertaken to place the merged company on stronger footing and noted additional steps that are available if circumstances worsen. President and COO Anthony Carino acknowledged missteps Eldorado made following its entry into this market 2 years ago and has made changes to remedy those missteps. CEO Thomas Reeg unabashedly acknowledged shortcomings at the properties they intend to acquire. Describing the level of business at these properties compared to what it once was, he called it sad and vowed to rebuild it. When concerns were raised about the relatively low level of employment at the properties compared to the market average, he said they fully understood and will work to remedy that. I found their testimony to be forthright. In my view, the petitioners have been honest about the challenges that lie ahead. They have made commitments to restore the proud history of the properties they would acquire. And they acknowledge the importance of Atlantic City to their success. On the second day of this hearing, we turned our attention to mergers to the merger's potential impact on competition in this market. We heard testimony from two economists. The first, Dr. Timothy Watts, was retained by the petitioners. The second, Dr. Martin Perry, was engaged by the Division of Gaming Enforcement. Both experts submitted detailed reports with the analysis of the merger transaction, as well as their opinions of the impact on Atlantic City. Dr. Watts was helpful in assessing the statistical impact of the proposed merger. In his report, he included all of the statistical categories in the Casino Control Act pertaining to undue economic concentration. Dr. Watts also provided an amendment to his original report, which analyzed the potential impact of the Bally's sale to an independent operator. In my view, the petitioner's decision to divest one of the casinos weighs heavily in their favor. Indeed, the economic concentration will not exist. If the sale of the property is completed, confidence in the market may be harmed and concerns of undue economic concentration would be heightened. Dr. Perry raised, among other things, the well-known restrictive covenants that Caesars Entertainment placed on former casino properties it once owned in Atlantic City. In his report, he called for the state to lift the restrictions while noting existing operators have an incentive to block competition from other entrants by placing restrictions on the use of these properties. The division included the lifting of the deed restrictions among its recommended conditions as condition 37, and the petitioners agreed to do so upon the agreement of the current owners. Other parties, namely Hard Rock Casino and Ocean Casino Resort, filed emergency petitions seeking to be heard. Though the filing of the brief on the division's recommended conditions regarding restrictive covenants. However, being filed after closing statements were made and not advancing an argument that could be substantially add to the merits of the matter before us, the petitions were denied. Nevertheless, I have significant reservations regarding the appropriateness of requiring the restrictions be lifted as a condition of approving the resolution today. It greatly complicates this matter and this decision with hypotheticals. Are there potential operators waiting for the opportunity to bring small, outdated, and shuttered casinos back to life? In the end, it is an academic exercise seeking to remedy a perceived ills that are not related to the merger plan that is before us today. In reality, we remain in the midst of a historic business disruption caused by the spread of COVID-19. As I noted, recovery in New Jersey has begun, but there has been setbacks in other states. The level of economic uncertainty raised by COVID remains very high today. Under questioning, the economic experts could not predict whether New Jersey's casino industry is on a better footing for recovery compared to other states. The benefit of more time will allow study and deliberation on whether or not the restrictions should be lifted, as well as the timing of any changes. This discussion should include all stakeholders and consider all viewpoints. I see no way that as part of these proceedings on the merger of this transaction. Another matter of concern related to this transaction has been the leasing structure of the casinos in Caesars' local portfolio. The merger will expand this agreement with the proposed transfer of Harrah's Atlantic City real estate assets to VC Real Estate Investment Trust, or VC REIT. After this transaction, all of Caesars Atlantic City casinos will be leased from one of two REITs. New Caesars will be a casino operator only, and it will make rent payments for the real estate it previously owned. The methodology to determine lease payments and the allocation of lease payments among the properties has not been a matter presented to this commission. The division recommends a condition that New Caesars submit this information within 10 days prior to implementation. As reported by the division, since Bally's AC and Caesars AC have been owned by VC and operated under leases, they have suffered from relatively low capital investment. This gave rise to proposed conditions that require, among other things, new Caesars to spend a minimum of $400 million in capital expenditures at Caesars AC, Harrah's AC, and Tropicana AC over a 3-year period. If Bally's AC is not sold by the end of this year, an additional $125 million in capital expenditures will be added, also to be spent over 3 years. These CapEx funds will be deposited into a trust administered by an independent trustee here in New Jersey. And after the 3-year period expires, the petitioners will commit 5% of Atlantic City revenues for capital investment at the properties in Atlantic City. If the capital investments required for the first 3 years are not made, the casino license hearings of the properties will automatically be reopened before this commission. In my view, these strong measures were absolutely required. They will resolve the underinvestment that has negatively impacted the performance of these properties and restore them to be the exceptional facilities as the Casino Control Act requires and this state expects. The petitioners have agreed to these conditions, and their commitment to invest capital regardless of whether they own the real estate of each casino is now a matter of record. This commission expects to be kept aware of the petitioners' progress regarding the CapEx expenditures and any shortcomings in satisfying them. In order to provide complete transparency regarding this matter, I asked the petitioners to provide, through their counsel, copies of the CapEx plan, any amendments, and all stipulated notices to the commission chairman. The division has reported to us on the qualification of the applicant and its qualifying entities, individuals, and financial resources. The division has recommended 40 conditions be placed on our approval, and we have heard through sworn testimony the petitioners have stipulated to all of the conditions. The conditions put great responsibility on the division. It's the division's duty to monitor and ensure new Caesars meets its commitments and satisfies all its responsibilities under the New Jersey Casino Control Act. New Jersey's regulatory structure requires a 5-year review of each casino license and any conditions. Moreover, the division director has the authority to reopen license hearings before this commission at any time. The public can be assured this body stands ready to fulfill its duties and resume hearings whenever necessary. Based upon the division's report and the entire record of this proceedings, including all testimony, I am satisfied that the applicant has met its burden of establishing by clear and convincing evidence that it meets each qualification standard under the Casino Control Act as the parent holding company of Bally's Atlantic City, Caesars Atlantic City, Harrah's Atlantic City, and Caesars Interactive Entertainment New Jersey, in addition to Tropicana Atlantic City. Commissioner Cooper, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I do. Thank you very much. Just over a year ago in June, we were introduced to the Carano family and its team of executives at El Dorado in the course of securing our approval to purchase the Tropicana. Now, we are here to consider approval of a merger between El Dorado and Caesars that will result in what has been repeatedly described as the largest gaming company in the United States. The stakes could not be any higher. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has been devastating, resulting in tragic loss of lives and countless travesties, shuttered businesses, and lost jobs. The Atlantic City industry was not spared. It bears to reason that there was significant concern regarding the financial stability of emerged Caesars and El Dorado, given the magnitude of the impact on the two companies and given the unanticipated costs. I listened intently to the testimony offered over the last 2 days, which was extremely thorough and very informative. While El Dorado was able to improve its financial condition, it is very important that the regulatory authorities continue to monitor New Caesar's financial condition to ensure its ongoing viability as it navigates through these most challenging times. I also heard the comment from one of the witnesses that we believe in Atlantic City, and anyone or any company who believes in Atlantic City gets my attention. It's believing, it's creating, it's initiating, it's developing, it's putting everything together. I heard the witnesses talk about their great team for this upcoming merger, enlisting very talented and knowledgeable individuals from various locations and areas. I was also very pleased to hear about the level of commitment to Atlantic City and involvement in the community. And with that being said, as I have always believed in Atlantic City, I truly believe that El Dorado should be given the opportunity to be in Atlantic City, to be a part of the Atlantic City gaming industry. I look forward to their success.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooper. I'm prepared to make a motion. I move we adopt the draft opinion and order, and based on the findings and rulings, and subject to the conditions specified therein, we, 1, find that the plan of merger between El Dorado Resorts Incorporated and Caesars Entertainment Corporation will not result in undue economic concentration under the Casino Control Act. 2, approve the plan of merger. 3, find the entity and individual qualifiers qualified. 4, approve the trust agreement and find the trustee, John Farmer, qualified. 5, adopt the division's proposed conditions identified as D4 with the exception of condition 37 in evidence. 6, require the petitioners to provide through their counsel copies of the CapEx plan, any amendments, and all stipulated notices to the commission chairman. 7, approve all related relief as set forth in the opinion and order. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Item number 15, which is Boardwalk Regency LLC, Bally's Park Place LLC, Harrah's Atlantic City Operating Company LLC, Harrah's Atlantic City Propco LLC, El Dorado Resorts Inc., Vici Properties LP, Harrah's Atlantic City LLC, and Caesars Atlantic City LLC, and Bally's Atlantic City LLC. I will not read the 3 requests for relief. This matter, as you know, was argued as a part of the merger, but the parties may wish to add additional insight.
Counsel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stephen D. Schreier again, of course. You heard the testimony from Tom Reeg and Brett Yunker regarding the nature of the sale of the land held by Harrah's Propco to Vici and how that sale was an important part of the overall transaction. A draft of the lease known as the regional lease has been provided to the division and the commission. The amended regional lease covers the same required lease language in section 82C that is found in the present approved leases with Bally's and Caesars and Vici. With the sale, the lease will be amended to cover all three of these properties, Harrah's, Caesars, and Bally's. Therefore, the joint petitioners would respectfully request that the commission grant the petition and approve the sale of the land held by Harrah's Propco to Vici and the lease back of that land to Harrah's Opco, and also approve the amendments to the regional lease to incorporate the Harrah's land. And finally, to delegate to the chair the authority to approve any further amendments to the regional lease to the extent that any of those amendments do not relate to the buyout or joint and several liability or termination provisions under the Act. And I think on behalf of Vici that Mr. Fabius is also present and he may want to address the licensing issue.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cooper. I am Michael Fabius, representing Vici Properties LP and its affiliates. It appears that my video is not showing, but I hope that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll proceed if that's okay with you, Mr.
Please.
Chairman. I want to keep my remarks focused and short on the licensing determination for Harrah's Atlantic City LLC. As I know, Mr. Schreier has already covered the request for approval of the sale and the approval of the lease, which we certainly join in, and we know that you have a detailed record already presented. As stated, this petition also seeks a declaratory ruling as to the licensure status of Harrah's Atlantic City LLC, which would own the real estate for Harrah's and lease it back to New Caesars through a passive triple net lease. I recognize that the commission has seen these passive triple net leases before, including the one presently applicable to Caesars and Bally's in Atlantic City that would become applicable to Harrah's. Previously, the commission determined that the licensure status of Vici's subsidiaries owning the real estate for Caesars and Bally's is that of a CSIE licensee, and we respectfully ask that the commission determine Harrah's Atlantic City LLC to have the same licensure status. In 2017, then Chair Levinson explained that the lease gives total control over to the property to the tenants operating the business on the real estate, and that therefore CSIE licensure applied. The commission's previous rationale continues to apply to the commission's determination today. Consistent with the commission's prior CSIE licensing determinations for passive triple net landlords, we have proposed a set of conditions on the licensing determination that include enhanced financial stability requirements. We've provided a written submission to the commission detailing these conditions, which include regular reporting of financial information, certifying compliance with financial stability criteria, and providing the division with information material to a showing of financial stability. We have no objection to the continuation of these conditions on the CSIE licensing determination for Harrah's Atlantic City LLC. Before I yield the proverbial floor back to Mr. Schreier, I want to finish by expressing our appreciation and thanks to the staff of the commission and the division for their diligence and professionalism handling this petition, all of the matters before you today, and from managing to pull off a multiple day commission meeting over Zoom, notwithstanding my present video complications. I know how much work has been required to get these ready for a presentation to you, and I just want to close by saying thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Chairman. The division primarily relies on its response to this petition included in its June 30th report on the merger. I'd just like to highlight some of those points here. Initially, I'd also like to clarify some references that, sorry, Chairman and Commissioner Cooper. Some references made by El Dorado regarding the proposed Harrah's transaction being called a land lease deal. As the commission is aware through its consideration of other REIT transactions, this is not simply a lease of land, which implies just of the parcel underlying the casino, but is a lease of also the entire brick and mortar casino hotel facility. To refer to this proposed arrangement in the basic terms of land lease, oversimplifies the matter and is simply inaccurate. You've set forth how the division has presented data showing that Bally's and Caesars have not been the beneficiaries of any substantial capital expenditure projects since it entered the Vici REIT in 2017. Similarly, we showed that Tropicana is part of the GLPI REIT structure, and since 2018, when that structure was established upon Eldorado's acquisition, Tropicana has not been the beneficiary of any substantial capital expenditures. You heard testimony that Eldorado would never make decisions about improvements based on whether a property is owned or leased. In a situation of choosing between two properties for a project, both with similar operating results and similar expected returns on investments, what would be the incentive for Eldorado to choose to improve the property it doesn't own instead of the equally deserving property it does, where it would be the beneficiary of the increase in overall value obtained through such improvements? There have been attempts to equate the $400 million capital expenditure trust and the ongoing requirements thereafter as entirely resolving any capital expenditure concerns which can result from a REIT structure. To the contrary, the need for such a fund to be established through this merger proves the point of the concern. If the lease structure and the minimal capital expenditure requirements provided for under it gave any comfort that Atlantic City properties would benefit from those requirements, the additional imposition of such conditions here would be unnecessary. If the sale of Harris is approved and those real estate assets are added to the Vici REIT, an upper tier property in the market will no longer be owned by its operator, while CEC has a pending sale of Bally's, which pursuant to a companion agreement would remove the lower tier performer of Bally's from the REIT, resulting in an overall expansion of Vici's role in the market based on the prospective new combination of properties. Financial uncertainty exacerbates such concerns in conditions where the REIT may be negatively impacted if gaming tenants experience difficulty in satisfying rent payments as a result of continued capacity limitations, use restrictions, health concerns, or a recessionary atmosphere. If the commission determines that the sale of Harris should be approved and that the appropriate status for the landlord entity of Harris would be as a casino service industry enterprise, the division would be able to concur in a determination of that licensure status. The division submits that such a determination would call for additional conditions over and above both those which were previously imposed on the Bally's and Caesars landlord entities, and those same conditions which are recommended by Vici REIT in its written submission here, in order to enhance the financial stability requirements applicable to the Harris landlord entity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for council?
Fine, thank you.
Hearing none. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the draft resolution and issue 1, a declaratory ruling pursuant to NJAC 19:40A-3.7, determining the licensing status of Harris Atlantic City LLC as a CSIE to serve as the landlord of Harris Atlantic City Operating Company LLC. And 2, approval of the sale of certain parcels of real property and the buildings and other improvements constructed thereon. And 3, approval of the lease as amended by and among Harris Atlantic City, Caesars Atlantic City LLC, and Bally's Atlantic City LLC as landlords, and Harris Opco, Boardwalk Regency LLC, and Bally's Park Place LLC as tenants, and 4, additional relief in accordance with the terms of the resolution.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Item number 16 is the matter of Caesars Entertainment Operating Companies, non-CPLV, request for amendments to the master lease.
Good afternoon, Chairman Plossis, Commissioner Cooper. This petition was filed by CEC with respect to the lease, the amendment of which you have just approved to include Harrah's Atlantic City prior to the transaction. The amendment proposes to amend this non-CPLV lease, which will now be known as the regional lease, to provide for two things. Number one, to deem the obligations under the lease with respect to capital expenditures that are imposed upon Caesars as having been made. And second, to then lay out going forward the capital expenditure obligations under the lease on a schedule for the next 3 years. This was a response to the COVID-19 crisis and the complete shutdown of the industry. With respect to the going forward obligations, they are those that would exist under the master lease that you've heard testimony regarding. And certainly the provisions of the lease are superseded and in fact will be governed, capital expenditure in New Jersey, by the terms of your conditions requiring capital expenditure at the facilities in Atlantic City, which will far exceed any requirements of the lease over the next 3 years. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Chairman. As you know, capital expenditures have been one of the main concerns of the division related to these merger matters, and you have ruled on them this morning and imposed the conditions that we requested. Initially, we did not believe that the request that Mr. O'Gara has just addressed was appropriate to hear in advance of this merger, and it was held until today. Now that the commission has ruled on the merger and incorporated the division's detailed conditions regarding capital expenditures, the division does not object to the proposed amendments, since capital expenditures as they relate to the Atlantic City properties subject to the Vici lease will be wholly governed by the merger rulings today and the requirements set forth in conjunction with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for council?
No thanks.
Hearing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the draft resolution and grant the requested relief in the petition and A, approve the amendments to the master lease pursuant to NJSA 5:12-82C, and B, delegate to Chairman Plossis the authority to approve amendments to the lease, subject to the extent set forth in the findings and rulings and subject to the conditions provided in the resolution.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Number 17 is the matter of Eldorado Resorts, Inc. and Tropicana Atlantic City Corp., Caesars Entertainment Corporation, and Caesars Interactive Entertainment, New Jersey, regarding temporary key licensure and qualification matters.
Mr. Shire?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, this petition was filed as a means of effectuating the approval of the qualifiers and key employees necessary to fulfill your ruling on the merger. What we are seeking in the petition is the issuance of a temporary key employee license to Kevin Fulmer, to perform duties as the Vice President, Digital Sports on behalf of CIENJ, and also approve a waiver of residency requirement for Mr. Fulmer. And secondarily, to permit the temporary qualification of certain other individuals who will assume positions and titles with Caesars Entertainment, Inc., or New Caesars, and that would be Keith Causey, Brandy Ellis, Eric Golubowski, Josh Jones, and Greg Klein. And I would ask that you approve that petition.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Chairman. In the event the merger was to be approved, the director of the division had designated as necessary qualifiers the individuals listed by Mr. Schreier, and in the case of Kevin Fulmer, a key qualifier. You have the division's letter of July 9th indicating no objection to the temporary authorization relief to allow these individuals to either assume new titles upon the merger for New Caesars if approved, or to retain their current titles in positions with the new company. As to Kevin Fulmer, he will be the Vice President of Digital Sports for Caesars and Interactive Entertainment New Jersey, and he'll also have corporate responsibilities with New Caesars. Given his title with the CIENJ casino licensee, temporary casino key employee licensure as well as qualification has been sought for him, along with a residency waiver. The division does not object to those requests for relief, and as to residency specifically, Mr. Fulmer will remain a resident of Nevada, where he currently carries out his duties, and his responsibilities will continue to require him to be primarily based there. The division also consents to a waiver of the requirement that disclosure forms be on file for more than 30 days prior to consideration of temporary qualification to the extent needed. In addition, Ms. Ellis has filed a personal history disclosure form 3 as permitted as an initial filing under the regulations and subject to the requirement that she submit the necessary full forms within 15 days of any grant of temporary qualification and subject to the requirements of NJAC 13:69C-2.7D. The division has no objection to the temporary qualification of the noted individuals and, as indicated, temporary casino key employee licensure for Mr. Fulmer. Thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the draft resolution and issue a temporary casino key employee license to Kevin Fulmer pursuant to NJSA 5:12-89A and NJSA 19:41A-5.3D, and permit him to assume the duties and exercise the powers of Vice President of Digital Sports for Caesars Interactive Entertainment New Jersey, LLC, pending plenary qualification, in accordance with the conditions contained in NJSA 5:12-85.1C and NJAC 13:69C-2.6, and further grant the petitioner's request to waive the residency requirement as provided for in NJSA 5:12-89B4, and authorize on a temporary basis and prior to plenary qualification the following officers to assume the duties and exercise the powers of their respective positions for Caesars Entertainment Incorporated, subject to the conditions contained in NJSA 5:12-85.1C, NJSA 5:12-89B1 and 2, and NJAC 13:69C-2.6 and 2.7.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion?
I'll call them individually, the names. Kevin Fulmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Keith Cowsey as Senior Vice President, Strategic Business Services and Information Technology.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Thank you. Brandy Ellis as Senior Vice President, VIP Marketing. Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Eric Golobiski, Vice President, Security Operations. Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Josh Jones, Senior Vice President, Operations. Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
And lastly, Greg Klein, Vice President, Operations. Commissioner Cooper
Yes.
and Chairman Pelosi.
Yes.
Thank you. Last item, number 18, Tropicana Atlantic City for amendments to its master lease.
Mr. Shire?
Thank you, Chairman. This is a petition on behalf of Tropicana Atlantic City that is designed to address the impacts of COVID-19 on the Tropicana and GLP master lease, similar in nature to the one that Mr. O'Gara just spoke about regarding Vici. The petition seeks the approval of certain rent adjustments and also the ability of El Dorado to replace or sell certain properties that are subject to the lease terms. None of those properties are Tropicana Atlantic City. And we also, in that petition or in the amended lease, would seek certain other relief under the operating, the capital expenditure, and the financial covenants contained in the lease. The matter before you does not implicate any of the terms of the lease regarding the provisions that are required under Section 82C of the Act. And you, as chairman, through delegated authority, may approve the amended and restated master lease upon receiving a report from the division or a response from the division. So I would respectfully request that this matter be approved as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Chairman. Similar to the prior matter, number 16 on the agenda, the division has a similar response. Now that the commission has ruled on the merger and specifically incorporated the division's detailed conditions related to capital expenditures, the division does not object to the proposed amendments since those requirements, as they relate to Tropicana Atlantic City, subject to the lease with GLP Capital, will be wholly governed by the merger rulings and the requirements set forth today. Thank you.
Any questions for council? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the draft resolution and grant the requested relief in the petition and A, approve the amendments to the master lease pursuant to NJSA 5:12-82C, and B, delegate to Chairman Plosis the authority to approve amendments to the lease, subject to the extent set forth in the findings and rulings and subject to the conditions provided in the resolution.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That's fine, that didn't need to be a roll, that did need to be a roll call.
Thank you.
Aye.
In accordance with Resolution 19-12-11-03, the next closed session will be held on Wednesday, August 12, 2020, at 9:30 a.m. in the commission offices.
This is the public participation portion of the meeting. Are there any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman? This public comment is dated July 15, 10:30 a.m. from Mark Clayton. I am for the merger as it would help to make Caesar's El Dorado more efficient. It would allow for Caesar's to be better managed than it has been historically. However, Caesar's did a lot of damage to Atlantic City under the previous ownership by putting deed restrictions on several casinos' buildings for the sole reason of preventing competition. This has resulted in less investment, jobs, and options for consumers. The deed-restricted properties include the Claridge, Showboat, and the Atlantic Club. Trump Plaza also has a deed restriction. As a condition of approving the Caesars El Dorado merger, can the CCC please require Caesars Carl Icahn to remove all deed restrictions they put on former casinos to reduce competition, Caesars, or to pay less taxes, Caesars owner Icahn. By requiring this condition, this can open up the window for additional future investment and redevelopment into Atlantic City, as well as thousands of additional jobs. The buildings with deed restrictions are eyesores or have underperformed because they cannot be utilized as they were designed and to their potential. Tourism to Atlantic City showed a significant jump when Ocean and Hard Rock opened. Thousands of permanent jobs were created as well. More options as a result of additional investment would further increase tourism to Atlantic City. Las Vegas would not be what it is today without a significant amount of competition and investments. This is July 15, 10:32 a.m. from Charlie Pig. What are the general protocols for coronavirus testing for gaming employees? In particular, will the CCC require testing? If so, will the test results be disclosed publicly for each casino? Please elaborate as best you can on the reasons for the CCC's positions. I'm sorry, this is Sebastian Pignatello. His email address was Charlie Pig.
Let me address that. The industry has worked with Atlantic Care as well as the Division of Gaming Enforcement and the Casino Control Commission to put in all the safety protocols. We will get back to this gentleman and advise him of those safety protocols, which include testing and where tests are available. I know Unite 54 is involved with testing as well as some free testing in the city. So we will address that with him personally. But for everybody listening out there, the industry has done their due diligence as well as the Division of Gaming Enforcement and the Commission to make sure that everybody who works in the casino as well as visit the casinos will be safe and secure.
Okay. This comment is July 15 at 10:42 a.m. from John Nixon. Would like to introduce this product to the Commission for consideration. It's a Clean Machine Team. This is from July 15, 11:28 a.m. from Moshe Math. To whom this may concern, I'm wondering if language requiring the removal of the deed restrictions placed by Harris Corporation on Showboat, Claridge, and Atlantic City Hotel properties sold may be a condition for approval of the merger. I know Senator Chris Brown believed that there is a case for removal by the courts. I believe it will be great to let everyone in the world know that Atlantic City is open for business. I have no conflict of interest, transparency purposes in this matter. My name is Moshe Math, and he does give his number, which I will not read. Thank you in advance for hopefully addressing this question. Appreciatively, Moshe. July 16, 2:35 p.m. Linda Smith. I watched the hearing over the last 2 days and heard the division repeatedly state during its questioning of witnesses and its closing statement that the Caesars properties are currently in a state of disrepair. Why wasn't the division concerned during the incremental demise of these properties? What did the division do to ensure its own conditions for approving the various transactions in the past were actually being met over the last 5 to 8 years. This is July 17, 10:45 a.m., Pasquale Forest. Hi, the meeting was supposed to start 45 minutes ago at 10 a.m. The commission has not given any explanation as to why it is delayed, nor has it given any new time date. Could you please let me know when the meeting is rescheduled for? Regards. Another one from Ming Zhu, 7/17/11:06 a.m. Hi, wanted to see if you could provide the reason for the delay in starting the 7/17 public meeting and when we can expect to receive an update. Thanks, Ming.
Well, the commission appreciates everybody who made public comment, and we apologize for the delay. We were in deliberations, and we had to resolve some matters, and we did. So on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I will make that motion.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.